Hi, and welcome to this very, very interesting session where we have one of the luminaries from across the world, Andrew Ng, who's so well known in the AI space. The session that we have today is the state of AI and its impact on the startup ecosystem. Moderating this session with Andrew is R. Paul Singh. Paul is a board member of Thai Silicon Valley. He's also been an entrepreneur. He's had one IPO and multiple exits. He also consults now with B2B SaaS companies and is a adjunct professor at both Northeastern University and UC Berkeley. Paul, take it away and tell us all about get everything out of Andrew. We're going to have a great session.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me welcome everyone to this session. And the session is, we're going to hear from the well-known expert, Mr. Andrew Ng. First time I saw Andrew was on my iPad when I took his first class, and then I got hooked, so I took the second one. Unfortunately, I didn't finish the second one, but then I ended up meeting him, and so that was the best experience ever. And we had a long chat about various topics, and so Andrew is the founder of Deep Learning AI and founder and CEO of Landings.ai. He's also a general partner of AI Fund, and he is a chairman and co-founder of Coursera, which is kind of where I took my class. And he's also an adjunct professor at Stanford University. I will be surprised if any of you have taken an AI class that Andrew was not the one teaching it. As a pioneer in both machine learning and online education, Andrew has changed countless lives through his work and research in the field of artificial intelligence. He focuses his time primarily on his entrepreneurial ventures, looking for best ways to accelerate responsible AI practices in the larger global economy. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Andrew Ng.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. And it's really nice to see all of you here at TaiCon. I was in India a few years ago, and in fact, I have a world map here behind me. So sometimes I look at India on my world map and think, I was just there a few years ago. Can't wait until the COVID craziness is past us and we can hopefully visit India in person again. So what I want to do today is share with you some thoughts about the state of AI, and then I think Paul and I were gonna take some questions and really see how would love to see how I can be helpful to any of you, and to the entrepreneurship community. So I think there have been several major inflection points of technology over the past several decades. From in the 1960s, the mainframe and mini computer revolution, which transformed several industries, large corporations, large research organizations, and also spawned some great new businesses from IBM, DEC, Intel, and so on. We all, many of you will know the history of the PC revolution, starting in the 1980s, which transformed a bigger set of industries and created some new great companies such as Microsoft, Dell, Apple. And then the internet revolution transformed an even larger set of industries and created yet more great businesses like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Salesforce. The mobile cloud revolution led to even more great businesses and an even bigger transformation. And where we are today is we are still in the middle of the AI revolution, where the set of industries being transformed is bigger than ever before. And I think there will be many new businesses that need to be built in order to do the many important projects that AI now lets us do in order to move the world forward. So, some recent quotes from PwC CEO survey, right? Maybe the impact of AI will be even bigger than the internet revolution, and various quotes about number of businesses disrupted by AI. I actually don't know if the impact of AI will be bigger or less than the internet. But when we're debating whether the impact of something is bigger or less than the internet, or maybe if the impact of something is bigger or less than electricity or something, we know it is very significant. And that's why I started the AI Fund, to support entrepreneurs that want to build these great new companies using AI. And every feels like every week there is some new news about AI, and whatever. I published a newsletter out of deeplearning.ai called The Batch that tries to cover a lot of this new news. And sometimes friends do ask me, "Hey Andrew, is AI going to plateau out?" And when I look at the fundamental drivers of AI technology, I feel like the major fundamental drivers are still growing strong, and the power and the continued momentum behind them will continue to cause AI to take off. And in fact, when I read about the new AI announcements, I actually mentally use these as a filter. Does this ride on the driver of compute or the digitalization of the world or the ongoing creation of new algorithms? Does it ride on one of these things to try to predict if a exciting piece of AI technology you may read about in the news today, whether that will continue to have a huge impact in the future, or whether it'll be a piece of hype, that won't be much remembered a few years from now. But let's dive into these few drivers a little bit more. So compute, it feels like there was an old Moore's law and a new Moore's law. And if you look at the biggest models that are announced by researchers, it's at least the max size of models is growing even faster than the old Moore's law. And it feels that when we switch to using GPUs for modern deep learning computes, the rate of compute has not slowed down for the last, I don't know, 8-10 years. And there was an interesting benchmark published by Stanford Dawn Bench looking at the cost of training ImageNet to, I think, 93% accuracy, which is a relatively high level of accuracy for this benchmark. But in the span of about a year, the cost of training a model to relatively high level of accuracy on ImageNet dropped from over $2,000 to about $10 US. And this rate of progress in compute is not slowing down. Or language model sizes. This drop from Microsoft Research, and this drop does not even include GPT-3, which was announced just several months ago. That's even 10x bigger than the biggest model on this draft. But so all the science we have in terms of compute, but not just compute, but networking and cost of storage, is that the various flavors of Moore's law are continuing unabated. And so this will continue to be a driving force that will power a lot of the AI algorithms whose performance is continuing to get better because of the lowering costs and rising speed of compute. It occurred to me, Moore's law used to be that if you kind of just sit around, even if you don't do anything, compute gets better. And with the rise of modern machine learning, what this is really saying is that even if you sit around and don't do anything, don't sit around and don't do anything, do things. But even if you sit around and don't do anything, intelligence is getting better, and that is even more powerful than compute getting better. So I find that very exciting. Second driver for the rise of AI over the last decade has been the growth of digital data, and all the projections are that we're continuing to digitize our world. The things we used to record on pieces of paper, much more likely to be a digital record in a database. The rise of IoT collecting sensor data from all over the place, both in industrial settings as well as in B2C personal settings, as well as the rise of vision camera data, right? So the rise of digital data means that we have more and more fuel to power our learning algorithms. And then finally, we're actually in the middle of the NeurIPS conference right now, where again, there's another incredible crop of papers. I was looking over some of them yesterday. But the number of research papers published does not seem to be slowing down. And there's a bigger than ever community of researchers doing the hard work of researching new algorithms and publishing them. And I hope maybe some of you, maybe many of you, will come to join this research community yet if you aren't already a part of it. But the pace of innovation of the new ideas does not seem to be slowing down. And so despite all this, sometimes friends ask me, "Hey Andrew, I picked just a couple of examples, not because they're necessarily the best examples in the world, but because I thought they were exciting. And I picked these because they are really relatively recent examples. But just a few months ago, NVIDIA announced a GAN-based video compression algorithm. So GANs are created by my former student, Ian Goodfellow, and I think it's transforming media and entertainment. And in the NVIDIA demo, you could compress video by 1000x. The particular demo, which you can find on YouTube, worked primarily for talking head video compression, so detect visual key points around the face, send the key points over the internet, have again synthesize the video on the other side. But so much of internet data is video, right? Over 50% of the data on the open internet is video data. And I think this is one example of a technology that will create opportunities for many new startups and many new businesses. I have some of you may know I have a 2-year-old daughter. And so, every now and then I log into the nanny cam or to the baby cam over her crib, over her bed, just to see, if she's sleeping, if she's woken up or something. And the resolution is actually really low. So I would love to have a higher resolution, video of my daughter so you can see her and maybe, save memories in the car with high resolution. That's just one use case. And there's so many video use cases that I think would be worthy of exploration if video compression allows us to compress video, maybe not 1000x for everything, but even if it's just 10x better video compression, there'll be so many business use cases and so many applications. And this is just one announcement of a technology breakthrough. Many of you will have also seen the GPT-3 announcement that OpenAI made just earlier this year. And, I think thinking about the drivers of AI technology from compute to data to new algorithms, I'm excited about GPT-3, not because of what GPT-3 can do, which is and GPT-3 was an amazing piece of work. It's incredible research work. But I'm excited about it not because of GPT-3, but because of where this new direction that it sets could go. So I'm actually even more excited about GPT-7 or BERT 5, or maybe something that one of you will invent, new algorithm 2 that we don't have a name for yet, and how automatic text generation in the future can be brought to bear, hopefully for a lot of positive use cases. There are some significant adverse use cases. Oh, I'm sorry, forgot to advance. There's some significant adverse use cases as well that we have to worry about with technologies like GPT-3. But I think automatic text generation will also open up a lot of new application opportunities as well. I remember sitting in the audience or talking to the researchers or being affiliated with groups that created the technology. And sometimes the technology, the first time you see it, you go, it kind of works, but it doesn't really work that well. But if it's powered, but if it gets better through compute and data, and sometimes algorithm innovations, that gives me confidence that it will continue to get even better in the future. And I think the line of work from BERT to GPT does feel to me that way. And so I think this will create new options in the future. So there are a lot of emerging opportunities in AI. I want to mention some that I'm personally excited about. Vertical AI platforms and ML ops. So it turns out from the entrepreneurship point of view, from the business point of view, one of the problems of AI is the cost of customization. And in fact, Andreessen Horowitz recently wrote a really nice blog post about this, where they said, basically paraphrasing, AI, what if AI turns out to be like a SaaS business with lower margins, right? Because you need to send people in to customize the AI for every customer. So who wants to build a SaaS business with lower margins? Who would want that? I think the best way out of this dilemma is to build vertical AI platforms that enables the customers to do the customization themselves. Maybe one example, Landing AI around CEO does a lot of work in automatic visual inspection. And we find that every factory needs AI customization. So if you're inspecting a cell phone for scratches versus inspecting giant sheets of metal that may be destined to be one of you, a car that you own in the future, seeing if that giant sheet of metal is warped, to seeing if a compressor has a leak in it, and it's leaking bubbles. All of these are important inspection problems, but each of them needs a different AI model. So how am I supposed to build 10,000 AI models for 10,000 different factories unless I hire 10,000 machine learning engineers, which is difficult to do. I think a more promising approach is to build a vertical AI platform so that manufacturing experts, rather than AI experts, can do the important customization work of building the models for their factory and then deploying it. India, of course, has a very large SI community, and I think this will offer new opportunities as well for the SI community. So in manufacturing, we have manufacturing SIs, systems integrators, experts in manufacturing, not necessarily experts in AI, but vertical platforms that enable them to do the customization, I think will enable them to do more of this important work as well. Um, so actually, one thing AI Fund watches out for, and one thing I'm excited about is just vertical AI platforms, because I think there are a lot of opportunities there. And MLOps refers to the set of tools to make the building and deploying of AI systems more repeatable and systematic. Education and human capital. We all know the world still has a massive talent shortage in AI, and the number of roles you need to build AI teams and AI products is becoming more complex. So the talent shortage seems to be getting more acute over time. And then also for the reason that AI transforms a lot of people's jobs, sometimes displaces jobs, I think we as a society need to find a way to make sure every person can has the opportunity to gain new skills and find meaningful employment, so they can keep on providing for themselves and their families. So, but I see education and the development of human capital be another significant category. Personal productivity and transformation, all the things that can be a personal health coach, helping with mental health or wellness. I think there are a lot of products to be built there. And then finally, next gen enterprise. If you look at all the traditional business functions from back office, HR, sales, marketing, I feel like just as software has transformed a lot of these functions, traditional business functions, we are now just in the early phases of many great AI products being built to help large enterprises or enterprises of all sizes be more efficient in these various business functions. Outside of these, four major categories, I think there are also just thousands of plain machine learning, AI supervised learning applications to be fleshed out. Looking at the market opportunity, projections from revenue from the AI software market, I tend to take these projections with a grain of salt. But again, all the projections I have seen are that we'll continue to see significant growth. And then finally, what's the impact of COVID on AI? COVID is a societal-wide tragedy. Maybe we're about to turn the corner because of the availability of a vaccine, although I think many countries, including the United States, will be in for a very hard and very dangerous winter. I hope we'll get through it. But what we are seeing, what Appen published in the survey, for example, is that it does not seem to be materially affecting, on average, the impact of AI. And in fact, when I speak with CEOs across different industries, the trends are AI has accelerated digitalization. In many countries, people are working from home now. World is shifting to e-commerce. So it's accelerated digitalization. And the digitalization is creating more data and thus accelerating the AI transformation. I want to share with you just maybe kind of anecdotal data I'm seeing when I speak with retail CEOs. I see a lot of retailers. And I'm it's just anecdotal data, but I'll tell you what I'm seeing. COVID in the United States and in many other countries has accelerated e-commerce. And unfortunately, this is accelerating the division of retailers into winners and losers. I see a lot of retailers that are tragically struggling. A retail CEO told me recently this was the hardest year he's had in his last several decades of running his large business. And because those businesses are impacted, barely able to make payroll, struggling, there's a set of businesses that don't have dollars to invest in AI. On the flip side, there's a set of businesses that are doing okay for the very tragic reason of COVID. The acceleration to e-commerce means that their business is actually, doing quite well, and they see the digitalization and the need for AI and are actually accelerating their investments. So I think, again, quite tragically, COVID has anecdotally seems to be bifurcating the world, and again, tragically, perhaps the companies making the smart and aggressive investments at this point in time will likely continue to do better. I do think there's a fairness equity issue, even as all of us as a community create tremendous wealth using AI, have already, will continue to do so. I think we have a strong responsibility as well to make sure that this wealth is fairly shared. But I think net, I am seeing COVID accelerate many organizations' AI deployments. And of course, investment momentum in AI continues. So I think that many years ago, internet startups, right? Yesterday's internet startups became today's FANG, or yesterday's PC and internet startups became today's FANG. I think today's AI startups will be tomorrow's FANG. And just as the internet revolution had led to some incumbents doing well, but also some great startups like Facebook and Google and Amazon. I think today's AI revolution will cause some incumbent companies to do well, but also there'll be an exciting new crop of businesses, of startups that will do important projects that I hope will in turn go on to help billions of people. Before I wrap up, I want to share with you a little bit what we're seeing, at AI Fund. So I started AI Fund because I felt that there are many opportunities to support entrepreneurs that solve compelling problems that move humanity forward. So I started AI Funds, where I'm privileged to be backed by NEA Sequoia, Greylock, and many other great investors. And my team at AI Fund partners with companies to ensure that they have solid business and AI strategies, and also can assist with building strong teams. So what do I look for, right? What does AI Fund look for in terms of startups? I speak with many entrepreneurs that have either already started or starting a new company, and these are just a few factors I've noticed that seem to increase the odds of success. Domain knowledge with identification of a problem. So I find that I enjoy talking to entrepreneurs that deeply understand an industry and specific pain point. Maybe spend years working in some industry and experience and struggle of solving a problem yourself for years. And then an initial hypothesis of a solution. Do you have a sense that AI-based automation can lead to a solution and that is technically feasible and likely to solve the problem in a responsible and value-creating way? A large market opportunity. Clearly, today's promising startups often are targeting market opportunities where there's a large number of potential customers with a similar problem. And then driving grit. Startups move forward only because the people involved make it happen. And when I speak to a lot of Stanford students, for example, that sometimes tell me they're thinking of starting a company, and I always say, look, are you ready to struggle through the hard work, the pain, and the uncertainty that comes with starting a company? It's great fun, but let's not pretend it needs anything other than significant driving grit to make this work. So my team at AI Fund is excited to support entrepreneurs. And I think if any of you are working on a startup, please let us know as well. We'd love to hear from any of you. And I think hopefully as an entrepreneurship community, we can all build more great businesses and do the important projects that will use AI to move humanity forward. So let me say thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. I think if you can just stop sharing the screen, that would be good. All right. So thank you very much. This was a great talk, Andrew. And there are some questions from the audience and some questions which I know are. First of all, you mentioned you invited all the entrepreneurs to see if you are interested in funding that. And I know there's a lot of our audience from India. So I just wanted to understand if you are accepting right now company or not yet ready for them. So at least they don't waste their time and waste your time at the same time.
I'd love to hear from you regardless. AI Fund has been more focused on US and US time zone adjacent based companies. So we've not made any investments in companies in India. Doesn't mean we won't ever do so in the future. We don't have concrete plans to do so. But even independently of that, we love hearing from entrepreneurs. So get in touch if you're working on something.
Okay, real good. Uh, so, Andrew, you have been a great advocate of, AI education, and obviously India is, uh, in the middle, has a very large young population, and country has to think about how to employ so many new young people. And I think you have a plan on not sending everybody to college, but still making sure that they can actually be very gainfully employed in the field of AI. So I just wanted to kind of get your sense of what do you think India should do?
Um, I think one thing actually was following recently in India was the amount of discussion and investment that the government is making in AI, and so I think in the AI era we have to keep on investing in education, and I think scalable forms of online education, like that offered by Coursera and DeepLearn.ai, I hope will continue to help many people learn about AI and break into this field. And then in addition to education, I think community is important. I've learned that really in every country, and really all around the world, we win together, right? I can't do this alone. None of us can do this alone. So work with others, make friends, support each other, even when there's absolutely no reason for you, it seems, to help others. I remember when I was launching when in the early days of Coursera, so many other entrepreneurs helped us out for no reason, and I was never able to pay them back. They didn't need anything from me. So for me, the only thing I could do is pay it forward. And I encourage all of you as well in India and all around the world, go help other entrepreneurs for no reason whatsoever. And then when someone else helps you, pay them back if you can, or if you can't, pay it forward, because we win together as a community. Um,
I
and then,
totally
and then I,
agree.
yeah,
Really
and then
appreciate that. I think this is a great thought, and this is something that I tell all the entrepreneurs, because in the past I was helped by somebody with no reason, and now whenever I get a chance, I try to do the same. And there is no hope of someday it will be paid back, uh, pay forward. So the other thing that a lot of people are fearful of AI, saying, "Hey, are we going to lose a lot of jobs? Is the AI future people less? And so, if so, should we really be worried, or are there going to be new opportunities that are going to get created, so we shouldn't worry about it?" So, what's your thinking on that?
on the jobs front, there's so many jobs where we can't find enough people to do the work. The world does not have enough teachers. We don't have enough healthcare workers. In many cities in the United States, we have a real shortage of auto mechanics. We also have a shortage of wind turbine technicians. So there's so many jobs, really good, meaningful jobs, well-paying jobs, where we don't have enough people to do the work. I think AI does displace many jobs, and that does create, and I do think we as a society have an obligation to help provide a safety net for the people whose livelihoods are disrupted, so that they can gain new skills and continue to contribute back to society through their work. When we once had manual elevators, right, where you walk inside an elevator, there'd be someone there that use a switch to control the elevator, because it's really complicated, dangerous machinery. So when someone invented automatic elevators, I think it was, tragically, I don't think the right thing to do was to preserve the jobs of the human elevator operators. Automatic elevators was good. It was safer, it worked better, it's cheaper. But I think what we shouldn't do is tell someone, your job's gone away, so let's throw them out onto the street to die. That's the wrong approach. We need to provide safety net, protect them, help them retrain, and gain meaningful employment. And in terms of AI dangers, AI risks, I'll be very candid. There are a lot of things people talk about. I think fairness and bias is an issue. Adverse use cases, deep fakes, spam, fake, massive generation of fake news, adverse use cases, things like building, addictive digital products. So there are multiple problematic use cases of AI, job displacement. To be really candid, I think we need to work on all of these. I see a path to make things better on the fairness and bias issues, but to be really candid, the thing I worry the most about is AI leading to unprecedented levels of concentration of power. Um, the pattern I see in many industries is um, the internet allows you to process data from all around the world and centralize it in one headquarters in one company. AI lets you process the data and push it back out. So this is why historically a lot of tech businesses have been winner take most or winner take all businesses. How many web search engines are there in the world, right? How many, really a lot of software things are there in the world that are really thriving. There's more than one, but they're on, they're on 100. And what's happened is we, the tech world, we've infected every industry. So I think what this will cause is for every industry from not just tech, but also retail, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, to tend to what winner take most industries. Look at the ride-hailing industry. Look at how much concentration of power there is there in transportation. So if we build a world where every industry is winner take all, winner take most, how can we still ensure that the massive wealth we will create is fairly shared? And also, I think this will also change the nature of geopolitical competition. So how to govern across different nations is something I worry about as well. So I actually don't have solutions to these. Maybe if some of you have ideas,
I think this is definitely a topic we could have another 1 hour conversation. And I think it's what you are saying is that what Mark Andreessen said is software is eating the world. Maybe now the next thing is AI is eating the world. So question is going to be, how do you make sure that only few people don't get indigestion from it or become too big? So we have to worry about that. You talked about GPT-3, and I know you've given an excellent demo of this, and I think a lot of people in the audience are really interested to see a demo. If it's quick, I'd love to have an opportunity to see the GPT-3 demo.
Yeah, sure. So sure. I've done this in private meetings. I've never actually done this in a big open meeting. But let me.
All right, there is always a first.
So again, just for the record, sorry. Let me. So here's the AI Fund homepage. Right. Let me just take a paragraph of text. I'm going to copy that, and then let me switch over. All right. So this is the OpenAI GPT-3 interface. I'm going to paste the text I just copied from the AI Fund homepage. AI Fund works intensely, entrepreneurs, and then I'm going to say, GPT-3, why don't you, I'm too lazy. I don't feel like writing more copy from the website. Why don't you write some more copy for my website? And so this is an honest demo. I've never seen this text before. And when I hit submit, I had no idea what this is going to generate. Right? You're right. It's saying this is run by some guy I'd never heard of. So it's mix up stuff. So that's clearly not right. But some of the copy is actually, I don't know. C-Sage, so you C-Sage companies. Let's try it again.
I got more right this time.
Yeah. Wow, it keeps on, man, this thing keeps on trying to replace me with other people I've never heard of. But frankly, I don't know. If I was a marketer whose day job is writing marketing copy, I'm not quite sure how I would feel about this, right? But it's just, it's actually like pretty plausible website copy. And so, when there are capabilities like these,
so can I give it a rough draft and have it create a final draft for it, or it doesn't seem like it is quite there yet?
Yeah, well, I think some of the text is just factually wrong, but it wouldn't know. Like none of us were the founders behind the computing platform behind Siri. That's just not true. So the text is factually wrong sometimes, but it writes. Actually, this is the type of stuff we would say. We have said our teams of knowledge to help you make the right calls in the critical early stages. We are different from the friends of the way we operate. Provide our help to companies. We do invest our time and resources in the companies. When the fund invests, you do also equities and that kind of thing. But it's
Thank you.
true.
Right.
Yeah, but you get to spend your precious time and money on what matters the most. So I think a surprisingly plausible copy. And to me, again, I don't actually use this to write copy for my website. But the cool thing is, maybe some of you can think of how you could use this capability to create. Actually, we've actually had quite a few entrepreneurs pitch us about ideas that to build on top of GPT for various text summarization and generation types of ideas. So I think this opens up creative opportunities.
Yes, I've seen a few ideas in the MarTech space already where, automatic email being written and things like that. I mean, I don't think any of them are quite there yet, but it's a good process they're trying to get to. So, you mentioned about the bias and ethics around AI and all that, and that's certainly an issue. What do you think that you expect the role of companies in that process to do, or all the people working in AI? Should we have like a oath, like all the doctors take an oath, and should we have some kind of a solution like that, or what do you think is needed to kind of get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I publish a weekly newsletter every Wednesday called The Batch, and it's Wednesday night in the US. I just wrote a piece in The Batch that talked a little bit about this. I think we as a community, AI community, needs to converge on a set of shared values and shared norms. Doctors have a set of shared values, such as duty to patients above all else, right? To care for between making more money versus caring for the patient, your duty is to care for the patient. That comes first. And every doctor knows that. And there are norms for what to do if something goes wrong, right? If a hospital administrator tries to tell a doctor to do otherwise, what are you supposed to do? Very clear norms. You don't listen to them. Maybe you may report them. Um, AI community needs that set of shared values that I think needs to transcend any one company, as well as shared norms, so that we can all hold ourselves and companies and maybe even governments accountable to live to these values. So I actually spend a lot of my spare time thinking about what can all of us do collectively to bring the AI community together to converge on a set of shared norms and shared values and norms to live by.
Okay, very well said. So I think we are running out of time. I have so many more questions that people are asking, and I still have questions on it. But I think it would be interesting to hear one more question before we wrap it up, and which is, how is AI? How far is AI going to go in the healthcare industry in terms of helping the doctors or replacing the doctors? If you listen to Mr. Vinod Khosla. So what do you think is where is this going to take us, the future of AI?
We're in the very early days figuring out the use cases. One of the projects my collaborators and I did, Anand Avanti, Nigam Shah, Ken Jung, and others, was deploy a system inside the hospital that looks at the electronic health records to try to figure out which patients are at high risk of mortality to recommend them for consideration for palliative care. And it was and I think, I feel like we're all in the early days of figuring out how to use AI to help either assist or to automatically read X-rays or retinal images or many other imaging modalities. Aside from the diagnostic piece, which has gotten a lot of PR, I think the operational side of the house of healthcare also has a lot of efficiencies. I hope that we won't just contribute to the acceleration of the brokenness of the healthcare system and the inefficiencies of the building. And there are ways to probably help some companies make a lot of money without making the healthcare system better. So I say, let's not do that. But I think, as a fraction of US GDP, many nations' healthcare, inside the United States, healthcare costs are spiraling out of control. So I hope that entrepreneurs can be a huge force in building the solutions. First and foremost, to just deliver better care for patients, and then also to bring down the costs and try to make life better, first and foremost for patients, but also, hopefully healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, administrators, and for the rest of the system.
Okay, well, thank you very much. really, really appreciate you taking the time and speaking to our audience. And, all great ideas you have. And we look forward to great work in the AI that you've been doing and, helping all the entrepreneurs. And let's make a better future for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Always great to have you, and thank you everyone that ask questions or listening to this. Look forward, my team and I look forward to continue to find ways to support all of you in the AI and entrepreneurship community. So thank you.
Thank you.